The next item of business is a presentation by PMA Financial Network for Money Management of City Investments. Mayor, as you're aware that an ad hoc group has been reviewing our city investment policy and looking at ways that we could improve things. This comes from a committee of Mike Ducharme, Pat Ludvigson, Rich Tibbetts, and one of the items is to have a firm that would assist us in investment opportunities. So with that, thank you for coming out tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. All right. Can everybody hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Dan?
My name is Eric Stoltz. I am with PMA Financial Network. We are a public finance and investment firm. We are headquartered in Naperville, Illinois, and just want to thank Michael for having us in today. I want to kind of go over a little bit of information about our organization and some of the investment offerings that we have and how we can partner with the village to help you guys with your investments. So let's walk through the presentation here. Oh, mine, I'm on the wrong thing here. All right.
That looks familiar.
Yeah. All right, here we are. Okay, so a little bit about our firm. Our firm has been serving the public sector for nearly 35 years. Next year will be our 35th year anniversary. We work exclusively with public sector entities. So we have three branches of our company. We have our PMA Financial Network, which is our is the parent company essentially. Prudent Man Advisors is our registered investment advisor, and then Prudent Man Securities is our registered municipal advisor and broker-dealer. So we have three lines of business that all align with basically every service that you could potentially need within the public sector when it comes to municipal investments. So again, we work exclusively with public fund investments. We have about 120 employees across 6 or 7 different states. So we are headquartered again in Naperville, Illinois. We have offices in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Florida, and we also manage local government investment pools, over a dozen of them across the country. So we have a long-standing experience within this space for managing public fund investments. So again, as of last quarter, we have assets under administration of almost $27 billion. Majority of that being in Illinois, but again, that's separated between our Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, and Florida, New York, and Pennsylvania funds that we manage. So flipping to the next page here, this is just again kind of a breakdown of all the services that fall under each arm of our business line. Again, PMA Financial Network being the parent company, so local government investment pool administration. We run the largest school investment pool here in Illinois. That is sort of, I would call it like the bread and butter of our business. We work with nearly 700 school districts in Illinois alone. And we have about 130 municipal clients, primarily in the Collier County and Cook County areas here in Illinois. Obviously working to try and service the rest of the state as well. So we have, what happened there? So as far as our investment products go, what Michael really brought me in here today to kind of speak to you about was our fixed rate program, our CD deposit program, which is really our differentiator for all of our from all of our competitors in this space as well. So we're going to kind of get into that as well. But then also some of our value-added services fall under that business line as well, which would be our cash flow management program. We do full budget analysis and breakdown of our clients' cash flows. This is part of one of our free services. If you work with us, it's something that we take the time to do for all of our clients. And then PMA Securities, really that center role is kind of just breaking down all of the trading, our trading platform. So not only do you get access to this network of CD programs, but you also get full access to the secondary market. So we have a full trading team and trading desk support. It'll give you access to the secondary market. That's government securities, treasuries, agencies, municipal securities as well, so you don't miss out on that part of the market. And then Prudent Man Advisors, that would be the registered investment advisor with the SEC and FINRA. They are actually stationed out in Minnesota, but they're the ones that actually will run these local government investment pools for us as well. So they actually do the investing and advising on those large pools. And again, they also manage separately managed accounts. So anything from OPEB funds to pension dollars, they will run separately managed accounts for those as well. Flipping to the next page here. So when it comes to public funds investing, there's a very, you're very limited as far as what you can do. All of the investments have to be very safe, very secure. So we have basically created our model around the prudent man rule, which in Illinois state statute for investing public funds, you should be investing according to this, this principle, which is a very conservative investment approach. Everything that we do, you will have access to your funds readily, so you'll have liquidity when needed. The key is the preservation of principal, so the safety of those investments, and then obviously to remain competitive, the yield is another important component, but it should really be in that order. The safety, liquidity, and yield is how we should be approaching your investments for the city. So again, all of our products and services, they're all custom to follow Illinois state statute. So we should be following all these Public Fund Investment Act to make sure that we're keeping your funds safe. And kind of that last bullet point here, really the foundation of our firm is based on the idea that back in kind of the late 80s when the fund was, or when the firm was created, the original owner of the firm, he used to be the CFO for Joliet Junior College. And he and his constituents were finding that during the savings and loan crisis, a lot of them were worried about what was going to happen to their funds at their local banks. So he kind of created this analysis to make sure that the banks that he was depositing his college's funds and all his constituents, where they were placing their money, was going to be a safe institution to be keeping their funds in. So we still use that same analysis to this day as part of our rating process when it comes to looking at all of the institutions that we work with, all the big money center banks that we work with. They have to meet these specific credit requirements in order to fall within our CD program. And that's, again, kind of our big differentiator compared to our competitors. So, before we do anything with our clients, we really like to determine, what is the outcome that we're looking for our funds. We realize that we're putting together a solution for our clients. We're running a cash flow analysis. We have to determine what exactly what is the end goal for these particular funds that we're looking to invest. So obviously these kind of fall, depending on the type of reserves or the dollars that we're working with, they can fall under different types of buckets. So typically when we look at short-term operating reserves, we're talking about those funds that are falling within that budget year. So when we work with Michael before we want to place any investments with us, we can have the opportunity to run a cash flow analysis, make sure that we're understanding what the cash high and low points are for the village dollars, and making sure that we are laddering a portfolio for you so that those funds are being put to maximum use. If you guys are happening to ever do any sort of capital projects or anything like that, we have the opportunity to kind of manage your bond proceeds as well. There's certain rules that you have to follow in order to do that, and certain things you have to track to make sure that you're following IRS guidelines. That might fall in kind of that at intermediate term reserves, where you're looking to invest bond dollars anywhere from 1 year to 2 years. And then also, again, if you happen to go the investment advisory route, you're looking at terms that are, in perpetuity, 2 years to perpetuity. So just kind of, understanding what your strategy is for the dollars that you're looking to invest before, making any decisions on how you're going to invest those. That's kind of the approach that we take. The next slide here just really talks about the types of investments that your village is able to partake in. Again, it's pretty limited. It's essentially all fixed rate investments. Just this past August, they passed a bill that allows villages to invest in corporate notes now. You were able to invest in repurchase agreements up to 270 days before then, but now you can invest in corporate notes out to 3 years. That's still not something that we suggest on the broker-dealer side of the business, which is what I think Michael is looking to utilize us for. We think that there's just, first of all, there's not as much supply out in the market right now, and as far as high-quality issuers, there aren't as many of those either. That's something that we still feel is best left to the investment advisor to make those types of decisions. But everything else would fall under allowable investment for you guys. Again, the long-term reserves, there's mutual funds and exchange-traded funds out there as well, but that would, again, only apply to pension funds if you were ever looking to do that. Everything else would be fixed-rate investments. So again, I mentioned before, this is one of our value-added services for our clients. We will do a liability-driven cash flow analysis that we'll put together for you. Again, to make sure we're understanding cash high and low points before doing any investing, and then making sure that we are maximizing investment income based on sort of this laddered approach for investment. So again, we want to strip out and see what are your operating dollars, how are you spending your money throughout the budget year, making sure we're matching payrolls, accounts payable, any debt payments that you might have to make, making sure we're structuring and meeting those liabilities. But then when there's an opportunity to take maybe some money out longer, you see the dark blue line that can be looked at maybe as your long-term reserves. Yes, and then we always leave a liquidity cushion as far as making sure you always have cash on hand when making investments as well. So again, the whole purpose of this is to make sure that we're investing with a plan. We're not just going out blindly and saying, hey, this bank's offering a good CD here, let's pick this one, let's pick this one, let's pick this one. We're making sure that we're actually having a strategy behind those dollars. We think that's really important, to be invested in the market at all times, but making sure that you have a plan with your money as well. Okay, so next page here, this again kind of just gives you an idea of what our investment platform looks like. So again, we're a full-service broker-dealer. We work exclusively in that capacity. The reason that's important for you guys to know as well is that we do not hold any proprietary product as far as securities go. So when we go out in the market, we're going out same time, and we're looking at what investment options are best for you at that day and that time you're looking to invest. Again, why that's important is, if there's a bank or another broker that's holding their own inventory, there might be incentive for them to push a particular product at a certain time, depending on what market conditions are. That's never the case with us. We're not in that place to do that. So I think that's important to keep in the back of your mind. Again, kind of that middle section there, that's really, again, I think our big selling point here is that we have our relationships with all of our municipal clients, but then on the trading side of the business, we also have relationships with all of our banks and depositories. So that number is actually closer to 1,300 now, banking relationships across the country. So when you guys are looking to place investments for the city, we go out into our national network, our national database of banks, and we have an entire group of our trading team that manages those relationships. So when we're going out in the market, we're looking same time, we're seeing what are these banks across the country offering. And again, all these banks are meeting a very high credit quality standard to make sure that your money is going to large money center banks or community banks that have extremely high credit rating and that we're very comfortable with their balance sheet and that it's high quality. Again, We meet every type of different collateral that you could possibly need. They're all part of our, basically the deck that we can provide. So any types of collateral deposits that you need. We have letters of credit, insured deposits, essentially every form of collateralization that is allowable per Illinois state statute we have to offer. And then again, some of the service highlights here, again, because we have all those relationships, you're not just having to look at CDs that are out there for 90 days, 180 days, 365 days. We can actually go out into the market, find terms for your deposits that meet your particular liabilities, make sure that we're taking you further out the yield curve when we can, and making sure that we're, again, first and foremost, matching your liabilities of the city before we do any investing. Again, with how our fee structure works is that, as I mentioned before, we have, and this is again on the broker-dealer side, we have those relationships with those outside banks, and what they will do is they will quote us a gross rate, and just as you would in your own, brokerage account or E-Trade account, you'd go in there and you're given your bid-ask spread. So we'll be given a bid quote by the money center banks, and then we'll take the spread between what we give to the client. So we're always quoting you a net rate. So you're never getting an invoice or a fee at the end of the month. You're always being quoted a net rate as far as the fees go. And that spread is maxed out at 25 basis points. But we're usually in the 10 to 15 basis point range to make sure that we're giving our clients solid return and obviously remaining competitive. Otherwise, you wouldn't invest with us. So again, all those services that are highlighted at the bottom there, those all are part of the fee. So again, all the back office work is all taken care of. Wire fees, administrative fees, the cash flow analysis that we run for you, that is free of charge. We'll look at it, we'll review investment policy if that's something that you guys are looking for. I should also note that you would also get a designated advisor as well. So you're not calling up a 1-800 number if you need any help, or if you guys are looking to place investments, you have a designated advisor that's on your account as well. So we really think that our service level and the way that we model it out is really beneficial to our clients, because we really have that white glove service, and I think that's again something that separates us from the competition in this market. Next here. And I don't know how much more we need to get into this, Michael. This is kind of talking about our bond proceeds program. We also have a proprietary report as well, that should you guys ever be looking to issue debt, there's some specific guidelines that you would need to follow when it comes to spend down requirements and how much you can earn on your investments, and making sure that you're tracking arbitrage, because this is often something that the IRS will look at. Making sure that you're not just issuing debt for fun to arbitrage it and make extra money off of it. They want to make sure that you're meeting a specific drawdown schedule and investing your funds appropriately. So that's another thing that we do for you, should that ever be something in the past. If you guys are ever looking to do capital expansion or projects within the city, we can help manage the bond proceeds from that debt as well.
Eric, there may be some questions out there.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. And the last section here kind of talks about our investment advisor. I know Michael's not looking at that right now, but just so you know in the future that we do have, that's the last few slides here, really talks about our investment advisor and kind of our track record and how we performed and how we can service you on that level too. So if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Let's start with the Alderman Ludwigson.
Sure.
Hi,
Hi, how are you?
good, how are you?
Good.
When we actually go out and buy something,
Sure.
are you just matching us up with them, or I noticed that you talk about how you are insured,
FDIC insured, right.
So are we depositing with you and then you're making that transaction, or are you just matching us with somebody to do the transaction on our own?
Oh, no, we're actually placing that investment for you with that other entity. So, yeah, I mean, it would go through us. We wouldn't like call them up and say, hey, these guys are going to work with you. No, we will actually do the full transaction, and it would fall on our reporting, and obviously your deposit would be held at that institution, and then when it comes time for maturity of that deposit, it would be, placed back into your account, the cash would be placed back in your account along with that interest earning. But yeah, we would be actually placing the deposit for you.
But you're not acting as you're acting as an agent, not as you're not holding anything after.
No, yeah, we do not.
It's issued in our name only.
Exactly, yeah, we are not holding any of your investments for you. We are, yeah, exactly, we're kind of, I guess, a pass-through agent. I guess you can kind of look at it that way. A true broker in the sense, yes.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Alderman Rosenthal,
I have a couple questions if I can.
go ahead.
Okay.
Please.
One of the things I wanted, this is the last one I have. I want to go back to your fee structure. You said
Sure.
it ranges between 15 and 25 basis points.
Yes.
And how is that determined?
That's part of, well, that's just always the way we've had it in the past as far as we've,
Is it based upon volume of the investment or what?
no, it's strictly based on, it's based on the resolution when it's initially passed. I mean, that's how we've always set up our fee structure. But as far as the pricing goes, I mean, it's kind of, it would be basically more on supply and demand and what the rates are in the market. So obviously, if the spread is thin in the past, like back in 2008, I mean, we were cutting our fees essentially to nothing to make sure that our clients were getting a return. Yeah, the fees basically, it's based on, to make sure that the rate of return that you're getting is actually competitive in the market. So I mean, a lot of it is based on how competition's pricing. That's part of it as well. But essentially, when you go out on the market at the same time, the yield that's out there is going to be, for the most part, comparable across the different institutions. But again, to gain a competitive edge, there's times where you have to go skinnier on your fees to make sure that your clients are happy and staying with you.
So if I'm interpreting you correctly, it's kind of a negotiating thing.
It can be, yeah, when it needs to be, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay. The other question I had, you do have a number of municipalities that are your clients.
Yes.
That's what you said.
Yes.
I'm interested, for information purposes, is how those municipalities may be structured. Do they have a committee, or do they have, how are they internally structured?
Sure.
Within the municipality
Well,
for investment?
Sure. So, I mean, a lot of it has to do on size. So, I mean, you'll have, like, City of Elgin is one of the biggest cities in one of the Collier counties, and that's one of our clients. And for them, they'll have a committee that they'll have to run investments through. Others, you're working with smaller entities, and you have the finance director that's kind of calling all the shots, and they don't have to run anything by a mayor. Sometimes, the mayor will have final say on what investments are placed. Really, the city structure is kind of, they're all different, to be honest with you. It just depends on how involved they want to get with the investment process. But really, yeah, it kind of dependent on the city, and a lot of times the size and the amount of the investments will have a lot to do with that.
So my final question, let's assume you've got the account and there's an investment. How does the process initiate? Is it initiated by us calling you or whoever is designated broker? Is it a broker?
We call it a portfolio advisor, but yeah.
Portfolio advisor.
Sure.
Do they call and say, we've got this much to invest, or is the portfolio advisor initiating? How is that going to work?
No, so on the broker-dealer side, we do not initiate any investments for you. Everything will have to be run by the city first before placing any investments. So, again, that's kind of the reason why we really like putting that cash flow analysis together for you, is that it gives us a reason, to stay in front of our clients as well. But it's really beneficial to you and us, so to make sure that, you're kind of maximizing your investments when you can. So it'll give us a reason to call up and say, hey, you guys have a liability coming due, a maturity, and your cash flows that you guys can do another $250,000 out in the CD block, and allows you to make those decisions. So it's really just a decision-making tool, but we would not just say, okay, they have this coming up, let's go place this investment. We would never do that. We have to call you first,
Right. No, I
get your
recognize
approval.
that. That's kind of the law.
Yeah.
I mean, are you waiting, let's say, for Mr. Ducharme to call you and saying we've got money to invest? Or are you initiating the call, or is it sort of combination?
It's kind of a combination. It'll be mutual depending on how, how he'll be utilizing the tool. If not, we always try to stay in front of our clients to make sure that we're not only, making sure the investments are appropriately invested out, but also, building that relationship as well. That's important. So there's always that communication between the two parties.
And I think if I heard you right, we would have a single account rep
Yes,
for our account.
yes.
Okay. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Messer,
I have no additional questions on top of what was asked.
Alderman Williamson.
I have no additional questions.
We also have our treasurer here.
Okay.
Would you like to ask something?
I have just had one question. You mentioned Elgin.
Yes.
Can you tell us what other municipalities around us you would be having as clients in our area?
Yeah, sure. So Buffalo Grove is one of our clients. We work with City of Geneva, City of St. Charles, City of Glen Ellen. We work with a lot of library districts, a lot of park districts in the area. Top of my head. That's the name of them. I can get Michael a list of the other ones. About 130 that we work with in the surrounding area.
Thank you.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
How is our money securitized? I mean, you don't securitize it. You're just a pass-through. The money goes to a
Sure.
bank or an institution. Investment is, it says here that we're basically covered for the 250 from the FDIC requirement.
Right. And that's
I
it,
mean,
right?
If we're working with $10 million,
Right.
where do we go, to 50 different banks?
Well, there's actually certain programs where you can actually do that. So
Well, you can do it with CDARS.
we do have that program as well, but then also depending on, again, how conservative or how open your investment policy is based on state statute, we have all those other forms of collateralization. So some people are comfortable with letter of credit through Federal Home Loan Bank. We have that for large block deposits. If that's something you're not comfortable with, we also have relationships with some of, again, those large money center banks like Citibank, Bank United, US Bank, that allow for large blocks of collateral to be placed, and they'll have designated collateral either through,
To back it up.
to back it up. So
our
municipal
funds
securities,
are
government
always-
agencies,
Our funds are always guaranteed.
always collateralized and guaranteed by that backing.
Well-
And you'll have that designated collateral, you get a report, just like your monthly report that shows your activity, you get a collateral statement that shows the designated securities that are backing your particular deposits as well. If you're doing, large block deposits outside of those $250,000
You
deposits.
say that, but what if we want to invest 500,000 and we're limited to 250 through the FDIC? The banks take it from there and enhance the collateral?
Well, what we'll do is, so the FDIC is really just what the
Every-
SEC is guaranteeing you, right, should the bank fail. What they'll do is, again, there'll be some other form of collateralization that they'll use. And oftentimes what we'll do is we'll say, okay, you're looking to place out 500,000 out for 6 months. And what we'll do is we'll usually take 2 different banks and pair those together. Because again, we have, those 1,300 banks that we work with across the country, and we'll do 2 blocks at 250 if you're looking to do, a $500,000 deposit. So it'll be split between those 2 institutions, and it'll kind of be brokered out that way.
The CD rates right now run from 1.9 for a 2-year to 2.3 for a 5-year. What kind of return are you seeing from this process?
From this process, we're actually seeing, as part of our program, out 2 years, we're looking at rates that are actually in the 3% range.
Okay.
And that's just out 2 years. Again, that's kind of where the market is right now. And again, if you're using a local bank, I pretty much can, well, I can't say guarantee, but I can say that by using this program and making sure that, you have you have an entire team that's designated to really working those banking relationships and making sure that you're getting paid market rate. I mean, that's where rates are right now. I mean, Treasury and agency rates are kind of on top of each other along with the CDs. But again, when you're using this type of program, inherently in a normal rate environment, we're kind of flattening out now, but in a normal rate environment, there's that inherent yield advantage when it comes to using a CD program versus just a traditional U.S. securities investment. So that's where we feel that there's a yield advantage.
Let's say it's a 3% return minus your charge.
So that 3% is what we're seeing after fees, actually. So we're looking at rates that are,
After fees.
yeah, so, and again, we're always quoting you a net rate, but we're seeing some of our banks that are in the 3% range right now.
Well, I want everyone to understand that you're not playing the stock market.
Right,
And you could get 15%, although today you would have got a lot less.
right, right.
So money is securitized. It's with a bank or an institution that's FDIC securitized or
Yes.
approved. Do you take the smallest amount? What's the smallest amount?
So we have no minimum requirements for balances either.
Okay.
And again, if we understand, I keep doing that, sorry. We understand how important those local banking relationships are too. So if you have a local bank that you guys are using, we can include that in our bidding process as well. So when we go out to bid for your investments, however often we do that, you say, hey, we want to include our local Wintrust Bank. And we have partnerships with a lot of local banks as well. Wintrust is actually one of them. So if you want to, utilize your bank as well, Michael can say, hey, can you include these guys on the bid? Make sure that they're able to at least show us what they can do. Sometimes they win, sometimes they don't. But, to make sure that you are sustaining that relationship as well, we understand how important that is.
All right, if we go to our own banks, do you still get a fee?
I'm sorry?
If we go to Wintrust on our own, do you still get a fee?
Not if you're placing the investments on your own, but if you go through us and then it ends up being that Wintrust gets it, then we do get a smaller spread on that. But yes, we'll still get a fee if you go through us. But obviously, if you're just calling on your own.
All right, back to Alderman Rosenthal.
Yes.
How would you position us, given what you know about us, in terms of your scope of clients now? Are we small, medium, large?
I'd say you're in the mid-range. I'd say our average client portfolio is just spread out over our client base is about $7.5 to $8 million. But I mean, again, City of Elgin, they're a $150 million client, whereas we work with a lot of small villages as well. So on average, I'd say $8 to $10 million is about our average size client.
Additional
Can I ask
questions?
a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So you talk about that you're compensated on a per transaction basis, and you list what that includes, and then you talk
Yes.
about management fees.
Yes.
Is there a difference? Are management fees different than your compensation on, for example, a per transaction basis? And you talk about including credit monitoring, safekeeping charging, cash flow analysis plan. I mean, is that separate from the management fee, or is it?
No, that's all, that's inclusive. That
Okay.
includes all of, that's why we feel like our fee is fair, because everything on top of, brokering out your investment, you're getting all these other services included, again, also a designated advisor as well. And we really feel like that cash flow management tool is very powerful. And again, it's gonna make sure that you're maximizing all of your dollars to make sure that you're getting as much interest in investment return as you guys could possibly get, while making sure that you're still hitting all your liabilities.
All right, could you just quickly explain the CDARS program?
Sure, so CDARS is basically a FDIC insurance reciprocating program. So what it'll do is if you want to take if you guys, let's say you had $10 million to invest, you want to take it out a year, and you still wanted to utilize FDIC insurance coverage versus, government securities or another form of collateral, you basically use that. And what they do is this company Promontory, they have this tool where they can basically reciprocate the different, the FDIC insurance number that, it allows you to have that FDIC insurance coverage and allows you to place it over that $10 million block. So you're getting the FDIC insurance coverage for that larger than $250,000 investment.
Questions, anyone? There being none, can we thank this gentleman for coming out and giving us a presentation? And obviously, we're going to take this under advisement,
Sure.
as anyone would.
Sure, of course. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Which brings us to new business. This is the agreement for the PMA Financial Networks assistances with investments.
Make a motion, we approve?
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Alderman Williamson,
Aye.
Alderman Ludwigson,
Aye.
Alderman Messer, Alderman Rosenthal.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Is there
We do have item B, which is the resolution authorizing and establishing the city investment policy. This memorializes the changes that Michael has addressed.
Motion to approve.
Second.
please? We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion?
Can we, excuse me, Mayor,
Yes.
can we have that subject to attorney review, please?
Yes. The person making the motion, are you good with that?
Yes.
Ma'am? Subject to attorney approval.
John, aren't they always, is that a bad assumption to make? Or no? Can we have that be part of our, can we make that part of our city code?
I don't think you want it part of your
No?
city code for everything, no. If there are if there are decent-sized policies that are run by us ahead of time, we can sit through and get it approved,
Maybe
thumbs
not
up.
policies, but maybe like contracts. I mean, we never really say subject. I'm assuming you've reviewed them if they're here on our agenda.
That's not necessarily accurate.
Okay. So would it be a good practice to say that our ordinance or resolution approving a, I don't know what it would be, a contract or an agreement?
If there's sizable
Stated
contracts.
every time on the agenda, subject to attorney review?
I mean, most of the time, we've seen a lot of the big things ahead of time and gone through it and reviewed it before it gets to the agenda.
Okay,
There's sometimes that is not necessarily the case.
okay.
Well,
Those are the ones that we say, hey,
Okay.
let's make that subject to attorney review, and it's a,
but John,
Catch
if you write it, if your company writes the agenda item for the, whatever I'm trying to say, item, you would say something, right? You'd say, wait a minute,
right. I mean, again, there's certain things that we do see ahead of time before it hits the agenda, some things we don't.
okay. All right, there you have it. What else? To go on with the
Roll call?
warrants?
We need a
First and
roll
second.
call. We had a
We
motion.
need a roll
second.
call, please.
Okay, Alderman Messer,
Aye.
Alderman Williamson,
Aye.
Alderman Rosenthal,
What are we voting on now?
10B or 11, 12B.
Investment policy.
Before I cast my vote, I had raised some questions with Director Sharman and with Administrator Wade earlier today. Based upon that conversation, are there any things that you want to consider changing to it, to the investment policy?
That goes to Joe. That question?
Hmm?
Question goes to Joe?
Well, to Joe and to Mike.
Sure. Yeah, there were a few things. I think,
Well, one of the questions you raised is, you didn't like the wording, I think, or you were wondering if we could change the wording related to finance director and treasurer.
Correct.
The language you wanted to see was what, Larry?
Rather, right, the way it's worded now is or, I prefer to see it and.
So any place there is finance director or treasurer,
Should be.
and/or treasurer, should be and treasurer.
Yeah.
I don't have an issue with that. Rich, I don't want to speak for you. Do you have an issue with that?
Rich fell asleep.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And then,
You know, the ordinance got amended, is it an ordinance or resolution?
Resolution.
Resolution. It was amended based on no mention of the treasurer last time. So I thought to be able to include the treasurer in having an ability to act in concert with the investment policy, obviously. It wouldn't be the treasurer or the finance director, for that matter, just taking some autocratic actions. So I don't see the reasons why you would say finance director and treasurer. It would have to be, I would think it could be more.
But then that means that the finance director or the treasurer
Yeah.
can act on his or her own.
Correct.
And
Straight ahead with-
It's a backup to each other. I mean, let's say, either Michael or I may not be here forever, and if we have to work together all the time, then that
But it doesn't
encumbers
mention you as a
the ability
person.
to act.
It mentions the position.
It says, if you're changing the word from or to and, then it means that both of us have to act at the same time.
Both of those who occupy that position.
Yeah, right.
In the future, it's going to be somebody else.
Correct. And
Okay.
it's tying hands together rather than allowing independent hands to work in behalf of the city's investment policy. I don't see the problem. I really don't get it.
I would only
I think
raise
it's more-
one issue, and please, I will listen to any other side of it. Number one, we're trying to take something, a process, and make it as efficient as possible. The more people I have to go around to get them to say it's okay for me to purchase a certificate of deposit is not an efficient process. And Rich was in no way, shape, or form ever stepping into that process.
Right.
Now, all I'm trying to do is, number one, get a policy adopted so that the council understands what the policy is. I will provide you any backup, any reports that you're looking for to show you that we went out to get competitive bids for any investment I'm buying. But on the other hand, in the time that I'm here between Sherry and myself, we will work out an internal procedure so that each of us knows what's being purchased at any given time and what that process is, so that we have the necessary backup to give to the council.
But when that need comes up, it's not like something that happens in the blue. One day it's okay, and then the next day you got to do it. You know ahead of time, based upon the schedule of maturity and whatever, as to when you're going to have to do it.
Well, initially, to get the program started, it's not quite that easy. We have to go out and start that process to, number one, place the investments initially. Once the schedule's developed, yes, we know the maturities. Right now, if you ask to see a schedule, there are no maturities.
Well, that's,
Larry, can I make one point, I think? As you mentioned, in the future, Rich may not be the treasurer, it may be someone else, and it could be someone like a lot of the aldermen where they work 9 to 5, a 9 to 6 job, and for them to be able to get here after hours or whatever, because the city staff works the same hours that, a lot of us work, so to require both of them to have to to get together on all these matters, I mean, I kind
I
of
don't know,
trust our.
maybe I'm
CFO.
oversimplifying it, but I see this as a telephone call, where the finance director says, we've got this thing coming due, this is what our needs are, and this is what I recommend that we should do. In a conversation with the treasurer, and then the treasurer says yes or no.
What happens if I don't get a hold of him and I'm here one day a week? I'm gonna wait another week and then go out and get quotes again in order to make that happen?
Or can I
And
suggest we
That's
simply,
what happens.
simply go with what you have, and if it develops along the lines that the alderman is asking for, we can change it.
Well, I just want to make sure everyone is satisfied with what's happening, because if there's an issue from the beginning, the program's not going to be successful because somebody's going to find fault with
Well,
it.
but again, we can change things later if we have to.
Okay.
My recommendation is you stay with what you got, Alderman Rosenthal.
Okay.
And you can get back at it, it's not a 200-year deal that we're making here.
And I want to stress, with this, there's a record of the decision that was made too, so that can be reported back to the larger council and treasurer.
It's going to be a good program
Everybody's gonna
with or without you.
Change?
Thank you.
Change what?
All right, I think we agreed, I hope we agreed. What's next, Joe?
We have to finish the roll call
Okay, what's the roll call?
on the vote to approve this item. We had a motion and a second,
Okay,
we're still
okay,
finishing the
as
voting.
written. Okay.
Okay,
let's-
as written, okay. Alderman Williamson?
I don't know. I don't understand what just happened. I mean, I apologize, but I can't vote either way on this because I don't understand it yet.
I think that they're asking to approve the resolution as written.
Which we,
Mr. Mayor, or Mike,
Wait,
is there
can
any
we-
need for this to be passed this meeting? Can we wait 2 weeks?
Can we table it?
Sure, if you want,
All right,
as long, I just want you to be comfortable
right,
with
so
this.
that way everybody will be comfortable when
That's
this.
what I'd like.
All right,
I'd like to make a
motion-
motion to table
motion,
it.
thank you.
We'll see the
Second,
meeting.
Second,
we have a motion and a second to table the issue. Roll call, please.
Alderman Messer?
aye.
Alderman Rosenthal?
Aye.
Alderman Ludwigson?
Aye.
Alderman Williamson?
Motion passes